Then the rumor goes out, Big U had something to do. Ooh. We lost everything.
You lost all those.
And when I tell you everything,
Wow.
Kanye stopped answering the phone.
Big U's hitman finally spoke, and his apology in court exposes secrets no one was ready to hear. From confessions to behind-the-scenes dealings, the truth about Nipsey Hussle's murder is coming to light. In today's video, I'll unpack what he said and why it could change how the world sees the case. Stick around. Big U and Nipsey's relationship. The story of Big U and Nipsey Hussle begins with a connection rooted in South Los Angeles, shaped by neighborhood ties, shared experiences, and parallel ambition. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Joseph Asghedom, rose to prominence as an independent artist and entrepreneur, while Big U, or Eugene Henley Jr., established himself as both a community figure and a music manager with deep local ties through the Rollin 60s neighborhood Crips.
It's the dramatic last video of rapper Nipsey Hussle, gunned down in Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness!
Paramedics worked frantically to keep him alive.
Their paths converged at a time when Nipsey was navigating the transition from an aspiring rapper to a recognized independent artist, and Big U was expanding his role in music and community influence. Their relationship was framed by mentorship, guidance, and access to networks that few in the community could offer. Big U's influence provided opportunities for Nipsey in local music circles, while Nipsey's authenticity, work ethic, and vision reinforced the credibility of that alliance. Over the years, Nipsey's initiatives, his marathon clothing store, community-based startup funding, and other entrepreneurial ventures intersected with areas where Big U held influence. This overlap created both synergy and scrutiny. Big U's support was visible in early collaborations and public appearances, where he spoke about Nipsey's energy, drive, and vision for community uplift. Yet, as Nipsey's independence grew, his career decisions, including declining major label offers, highlighted a shift in autonomy that complicated the earlier mentor-mentee dynamic. Questions naturally emerged. Was Big U primarily a collaborator, an advisor, or a gatekeeper in the local scene? The relationship's dual nature, professional and personal, carried weight for both men. Nipsey had a trusted connection with someone versed in street-to-business transitions, while Big U had a rising star whose ambitions intersected with his own sphere of influence. This foundation of trust became central to public perception after Nipsey's death in March 2019 outside his store. Investigators and commentators noted that those closest to him naturally came under scrutiny, and Big U's prior involvement placed him at the center of some discussions. Ultimately, understanding the relationship between Big U and Nipsey provides context for assessing subsequent events. It illustrates how trust, mentorship, and shared community ambitions can exist in high-stakes environments. The connection explains why questions about influence, authority, and proximity arise naturally after a tragedy, and forms a necessary lens for considering broader speculations and confirmed facts surrounding Nipsey's murder. Big U's public denials and statements. Following Nipsey Hussle's death, public speculation rapidly circulated, fueled by social media, podcasts, and news coverage. Central to these discussions was Big U, whose name repeatedly appeared in conversations linking him to various theories about the murder. In response, Big U took steps to address the rumors directly, emphasizing his loyalty and professional connection to Nipsey. He publicly stated that there was no beef and denied any involvement in the killing. These statements reflected a dual purpose: to assert personal loyalty and to protect his reputation within the music industry and the wider community.
That's so crazy to me because, like, to me, it's like so obvious that that has nothing to do with you guys.
It did not, but here goes the thing though. It had went so big that people was like, even if I didn't have nothing to do with it, it was so much said on the internet, people were looking like, well, just in case. We gotta back up and we gotta make sure. So I'm losing everything.
Big U's public position consistently highlighted the continuity of his relationship with Nipsey, emphasizing that their collaboration and personal interactions were grounded in trust and shared history. He argued that allegations of orchestrating or facilitating the crime were unfounded and contradicted by his public record. This posture was important, given his visibility in both community circles and music industry networks, where rumors of misconduct could have tangible consequences for reputation and business. However, his denials did not address every specific claim made by critics or theorists. While asserting no involvement, he did not always provide detailed accounts of his interactions in the days leading to Nipsey's death or clarify the boundaries of his management role. For some observers, this lack of granularity left space for speculation. Skeptics questioned why public statements emphasize loyalty without full transparency, suggesting the narrative could be interpreted in multiple ways. Despite these ambiguities, Big U's statements also had resonance. To supporters, they reinforced the view of a loyal associate distancing himself from an unfounded narrative. To critics, the denials were part of a larger puzzle involving influence, street networks, and community politics. Analysts note that public statements in such high-profile cases serve as both defense and narrative framing. They are data points for interpreting behavior, relationships, and proximity to key events. In conclusion, Big U's denials offer insight into his attempt to control public perception after Nipsey's death. While they clarify his official position, they also illustrate the tension between personal narrative, public trust, and ongoing scrutiny. In cases where community influence, street networks, and independent artistry intersect, such statements become significant, though they cannot independently resolve structural questions surrounding motive and accountability. The killer's motive and snitching allegation. The official motive behind Nipsey Hussle's murder was established through court proceedings involving Eric R. Holder Jr., the shooter. The incident occurred on March 31, 2019, outside Nipsey's Marathon clothing store in Los Angeles. Evidence presented in court indicated that the confrontation stemmed from a personal grievance. Nipsey allegedly confronted Holder over rumors that he had cooperated with law enforcement. The term snitching was central to this confrontation, carrying considerable weight in their shared community and shaping the dynamics of loyalty and accountability.
Breaking news, the man convicted of killing Nipsey Hussle has been sentenced to 60 years to life in prison.
Prosecutors argued that the killing was premeditated rather than spontaneous. Holder approached Nipsey directly and carried out the fatal shooting before fleeing the scene. This framing places motive squarely in the context of personal reputation, community norms, and adherence to street codes. In this view, Nipsey's independence and public status intersected tragically with the enforcement of those codes. The act was interpreted as a reaction to perceived betrayal, highlighting the complex interplay of loyalty, trust, and perceived threat in high-stakes urban environments. While this motive provides clarity regarding the immediate cause, broader questions emerged regarding the circumstances enabling the crime. Observers noted that Nipsey was outside his store without significant security, raising questions about proximity, preparedness, and whether anyone else had knowledge of the impending act. These elements suggest that while motive explains the why, they do not fully resolve the how of the murder or the broader context in which it occurred. For the public, the snitching explanation has often been cited as the primary rationale, emphasizing personal accountability and reputation over industry rivalry or other external factors. It reframes the incident as community-focused conflict rather than a broader criminal conspiracy. Yet analysts remain attentive to surrounding relationships, including figures like Big U, whose proximity to Nipsey inevitably draws attention. Ultimately, the motive rooted in reputation and street code underscores the cultural and environmental factors shaping the act. It emphasizes how personal confrontation and perceived betrayal can escalate into lethal outcomes. At the same time, while the motive explains the immediate trigger, unanswered questions about enablers, timing, and visibility remain, highlighting the broader ecosystem in which Nipsey's murder occurred. Speculations and conspiracy theories involving Big U. In the wake of Nipsey Hussle's death, a number of speculative narratives and conspiracy theories emerged, focusing on figures closely associated with him. Among these, Big U frequently appeared due to his historical ties to Nipsey and his influence within South Los Angeles. Speculation often centered on the idea that his dual roles in the music industry and street networks positioned him as a possible orchestrator or facilitator, despite a lack of legal evidence supporting such claims.
LA County prosecutors are laying out their case against the man charged in the killing of Grammy Award-winning rapper Nipsey Hussle. During opening statements, they told the jury the shooting was premeditated, but as Eyewitness News reporter Rob Hayes explains, the defense attorney telling the court a different story.
Several versions of these theories circulated. Some suggested that Nipsey's growing independence threatened local power dynamics, potentially creating conflicts with those seeking to control territory or influence within the music scene. Others tied his upcoming projects, business ventures, and rising profile to broader interests in community economics, suggesting that the fatal encounter may have been motivated by concerns extending beyond individual conflict. This framing interpreted the shooting as part of a larger structural context rather than a single isolated act. Yet, evidence supporting such theories remains limited. Big U was never formally charged in connection with Nipsey's murder, and the primary legal focus rested on Holder as the shooter. While Big U's later arrest for unrelated racketeering offenses contributed to suspicion in public discourse, none of these allegations were tied directly to the events of March 2019. In this way, the conspiracies reflect public interpretation and concern rather than confirmed fact. The persistence of these narratives highlights a social dynamic. When public figures operate at the intersection of community, business, and street networks, their deaths generate layered meanings. Theories about Big U illustrate how suspicion, power, and influence converge in public imagination. Even without proof, his prominence in Nipsey's orbit keeps him central in discussions seeking to understand the murder beyond the official court record. In summary, while conspiracy theories involving Big U remain unverified, they play a role in the broader discourse surrounding Nipsey Hussle's death. They reflect collective anxieties about hidden structures, accountability, and the overlap of influence and risk. These theories illuminate how community perception, public narrative, and unresolved questions contribute to ongoing discussions about responsibility and context in high-profile cases. Gang affiliations, territory, and label dynamics. Nipsey Hussle's murder cannot be fully understood without considering the intersection of street networks, territorial influence, and the music industry in South Los Angeles. Nipsey came from the Crenshaw-Hyde Park area, a community where gang affiliation, territory, and local economics are closely intertwined. Big U, associated with the Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips, occupied a unique position at this intersection. A figure with street credibility, who also operated within music management and entertainment. This dual presence created a context in which the rise of an independent artist like Nipsey could be viewed simultaneously as achievement and challenge.
Well,
and as they were doing that,
they were in the middle of a criminal investigation involving Nipsey Hussle, and it all centers around his Marathon clothing store and what appears to be what the police believed was a hotbed of gang activity.
Right.
In this environment, record labels, business ventures, and personal networks are rarely separate from community reputation and territorial control. Nipsey's independent trajectory and his local ventures, including Marathon Clothing, intersected with social and economic structures in the neighborhood. Big U's role as both a manager and a local figure meant that his influence touched multiple layers of that ecosystem, from music production to social hierarchy. Analysts note that independence in such a landscape can create exposure. Success draws attention, visibility increases vulnerability, and disruption of established norms can generate tension. Territory and influence in South LA are tied to more than criminal activity. They include cultural and business control. Nipsey's position as a respected entrepreneur and community advocate amplified both admiration and scrutiny. The dynamics of local networks, combined with record label activities and social presence, created a layered context in which the murder occurred. Big U's prominence in these networks makes it necessary to consider structural forces at play, not just individual actions. Understanding gang affiliations and territorial influence helps clarify why the case garnered such attention beyond the immediate crime. It highlights the environment in which visibility, independence, and reputation intersect with real risk. Nipsey's death becomes part of a broader pattern in which rising figures in the music industry navigate both opportunity and structural exposure. Ultimately, examining these factors demonstrates that violence in such contexts is often influenced by the broader interplay of street networks, local power dynamics, and entrepreneurial ventures. Nipsey's independence placed him in a position where admiration and vulnerability were inseparable, emphasizing that community, reputation, and territory remain central to understanding the conditions surrounding his murder. Evidence presented in court. What was confirmed? Separating confirmed evidence from speculation is critical when discussing Nipsey Hussle's murder. The court established that Eric R. Holder Jr. carried out the shooting on March 31, 2019, outside Marathon Clothing. Surveillance footage, witness testimony, and grand jury proceedings confirmed that Nipsey confronted Holder over alleged snitching, which became the immediate trigger for the attack. These confirmed facts form the foundation of the legal narrative, establishing who committed the act and under what circumstances.
We are pursuing a number of investigative leads. We're looking at video evidence. We're looking to identify a vehicle.
Holder was subsequently convicted of first-degree murder, reflecting the premeditated nature of the crime as determined by the prosecution. The legal case focused on direct evidence connecting Holder to the shooting, including eyewitness accounts and security camera footage. The confrontation with Nipsey prior to the shooting was corroborated through testimony, emphasizing that the act was personal rather than a broader industry-related conspiracy. Importantly, no court records or filings implicate Big U in the murder. While he is frequently mentioned in public discussions and speculation due to past affiliations and his proximity to Nipsey, the confirmed legal evidence centers solely on Holder. The distinction between confirmed facts and conjecture is significant. The law establishes who acted and why in a narrow sense, while unanswered questions invite broader public and investigative curiosity. Court proceedings also highlighted details such as the planning and positioning of Holder at the scene, his access to the location, and the timing of the shooting, which reinforced the conclusion that motive was immediate and personal. However, questions about other relationships or the surrounding environment remain largely outside the confirmed record, leaving room for analysis and community discussion. In sum, the evidence confirmed in court clarifies the essential facts. Holder committed the murder, and the confrontation over perceived betrayal provided motive. All other connections, whether to Big U or other figures, remain unverified by legal proceedings. Understanding the confirmed evidence is key to separating speculation from fact, offering a foundation for both investigation and informed discussion about the broader context of Nipsey Hussle's death. Big U's influence and public perception. After Nipsey's death. In the aftermath of Nipsey Hussle's murder, Big U's public image became a focal point of scrutiny. Known as a community figure with ties to both street networks and the music industry, his involvement in Nipsey's career and local influence complicated public perception. On one hand, he had supported Nipsey's early career and participated in mentorship and community initiatives. On the other, his connections to street networks and later criminal allegations, including racketeering, fueled questions about his potential influence and proximity to the murder.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand it was two things. Well, let me answer this, because what bothers me the most is when people say he got killed by one of his own homeboys. Right. Well, at some point, he wasn't his homeboy. Right. Because he's like, you ain't supposed to be here. Right. If you fire somebody from Drink Champs, and pull back up to Drink Champs while y'all filming, you're gonna be like, wasn't that a disgruntled employee? Right. That means he wasn't the homeboy.
Media and public discourse presented conflicting narratives. Supporters highlighted his contributions to Nipsey's career and to local initiatives, emphasizing mentorship, guidance, and investment in community uplift. Critics, however, cited his criminal history and the overlap of street influence and business control, suggesting the possibility of indirect involvement or at least proximity to events. This dual perception placed Big U in a complex social position, where his reputation was interpreted differently depending on perspective. Emotional response to Nipsey's death intensified scrutiny. As someone connected to the late rapper, Big U became a focal point for questions about loyalty, influence, and the intersection of street networks and entrepreneurship. Public trust fluctuated in response to statements, actions, and ongoing speculation. Analysts note that in high-profile cases, perception often weighs as heavily as fact, especially when community, reputation, and influence are entangled. Ultimately, Big U's public perception reflects a broader truth. Influence in a high-profile urban environment is multifaceted. His image embodies both mentorship and suspicion, community engagement, and street credibility, creating a lens through which the public examines both his past and potential role in ongoing narratives. Perception shapes discourse and affects how figures associated with high-profile events are remembered or evaluated. Legacy, community impact, and lessons learned. Nipsey Hussle's death represents more than the loss of a musical talent. It highlights lessons about community, entrepreneurship, and the structural conditions surrounding urban influence. Nipsey's independent path, philanthropy, and commitment to community initiatives created a visible footprint that extended beyond music. His death sparked conversations about the intersection of visibility, influence, and risk, particularly for artists operating outside established label networks.
It's a real honor to be able to appear here and to show love on behalf of my friend, my brother, a great man, a great leader, a great father, a great teacher, and a great friend.
For the community, Nipsey's death raised questions about security, support structures, and the cost of independence. Independent artists, admired for autonomy and vision, face exposure when operating without protective networks, whether in business or territory. Nipsey's murder illustrated that personal ambition and public visibility could create vulnerability, emphasizing the need for structural awareness alongside personal and professional growth. From an analytical perspective, the case shows that legal accountability often stops at the immediate actor. Holder was prosecuted and convicted, but questions about surrounding structures, enabling networks, and influence remain unresolved. This highlights the complexity of violence in environments where entrepreneurship, community engagement, and street networks intersect. Big U's proximity adds nuance to lessons learned. Mentorship and influence can coincide with risk, particularly when power, reputation, and visibility overlap. Nipsey's legacy continues through his philanthropic work, businesses, and the cultural imprint he left on Los Angeles. The broader impact underscores the importance of evaluating risk structures, protecting community initiatives, and understanding how influence can attract attention, both positive and negative. Ultimately, the legacy question focuses on transformation and reflection. Nipsey's death accelerated discussions on supporting local entrepreneurs, navigating street business intersections, and managing exposure for rising figures. It illustrates that success carries both opportunity and vulnerability, and that the ecosystem around influential figures shapes outcomes as much as individual choices. The case remains a reference point for understanding structural influence, risk, and legacy in urban communities. Before you go, remember, the story behind Nipsey Hussle's murder and Big U's Hitman's confession is far from fully told. The apologies, the hidden dealings, the questions still unanswered, it's all part of a puzzle the public has only glimpsed. If you want to see what happens next, the courtroom revelations, the reactions, and the full truth as it emerges, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next revelation could change everything.